What's up, everyone? I'm Ian Group. I help average people learn personal finance. I'm not a guru. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who's been through the crap and come out better for it. Dealt with the setbacks, the hardships, and I'm teaching you everything I know here in a new video every single week. So what are we going to talk about today? This past week, Dave Ramsey put a post on Instagram, looked like this, all about different traps in personal finance. Can you guess how many I agree with and how many I don't agree with? Well, you're going to find out right here in this video. So the first, payday loans. I'm giving this the trap stamp. Here's why. 3 out of 4 payday loans go to borrowers that take at least 10 or more loans within a year. In my experience, I don't use payday loans because I don't need them. Payday loans are usually used by people who are underbanked or have lower incomes. And I understand how these can be helpful, but the payday loan economy can be predatory and the interest rates on these things are incredibly high. As a result, borrowers fall into a debt trap, which means they keep having to borrow to repeatedly pay back the debt that they owe. And that's why I'm agreeing with Dave on this. So payday loans, you get trapped. Whole life insurance. I do not think this is a trap. You have term life insurance and whole life insurance. With term, you have a specific term throughout which you make payments, and if you die, your beneficiaries get money. Whole life insurance tends to be a little bit more complicated. It is more expensive. There are different benefits that surround it. We're not going to go into whole life insurance, but the point is that this is just a complicated financial instrument. Now, if somebody's trying to talk you into whole life insurance, take a pause, ask them for the information, and then do your own research. Go watch some videos, learn about what this actually is, but this is too extreme to call a trap because there are people who actually like these instruments the same way there are people that just like the stock market or real estate. To each their own, but I would not go as far as calling this a trap. Debt consolidation. Dave says this is a trap. I do not agree with him. Let me tell you why. First of all, I use debt consolidation. I had 12 student loans when I graduated law school. I had a ton of credit card debt, and I actually used consolidation on both. I used consolidation for my student loans several times with student loan providers, and then one time, the last time, with a private lender. This worked out amazingly for me. Got it all under one roof, lowered the rate multiple times, and actually got the rate down on the last time to below 3%. This was huge considering that my 12 loans averaged 7% when I graduated school. So that was number one good experience. The second good experience was with my credit cards. I had crazy high interest rates and I leveraged balance transfers to consolidate that debt into a lower interest rate offer. In terms of the student loan debt refis, there were no fees for this. There were fees, however, with the credit card balance transfer. And that is what you need to be aware of. If you are doing any sort of consolidation or balance transfer, you need to understand the fees. And I would also recommend if there's any sort of debt forgiveness involved, nobody talks about this, talk to your CPA about the tax implications that come along with forgiveness of debt. But Dave, sorry, not a trap. Adjustable rate mortgages. I agree with Dave on this one. I'm going to call it a trap. There are benefits to adjustable rate mortgages. Your payment can be lower, but where this, to me, becomes a trap is that you wind up looking at the lower payments and buying more house or buying something more expensive because of how low it is. So in my opinion, this fools people into thinking they can afford more than they can. That's why I agree with Dave and call these a trap. The downside of adjustable rate mortgages is they require you to see into the future. I don't want to go to bed at night not knowing what I'm going to pay on my mortgage. Maybe I just like predictability, but I don't want my mortgage payment to go up at the whim of rates changing. And so let's look at what's happened over the last year in terms of rates changing. Now, rates were at a historical low, so I'll give you that. But the Fed has raised rates in March, May, and the raise in June was one of the highest ever since 1994. So that was pretty big. Experts also suggest that we might see 4 more raises throughout the end of the year. So for that, I don't want that unpredictability. I don't want to see my payments go up. I think that if you're getting an adjustable rate mortgage, you're banking on it staying low. And now this year, especially, you're like, oh crap, my payments are going up every month. That's why I call this a trap. Car leases. Okay, Dave, I think there's a trap element to this, but I will not call car leases a trap. The reason is, I think car leases are great for the same reason I think renting apartments is great. If you can't afford to buy, you have the option to lease. And it's unrealistic to say that everybody should just be buying cars. Not everyone has the money for it. So maybe the benefits of leasing a car are not going to be that great, but at least you'll have a car for transportation. Lease payments tend to be more affordable. You get to return the car at the end of the term, you get a new one, which is cool. Buying is also more expensive. However, and this is what I think Dave is getting at, when you buy a car, you're building equity in that car. When you pay off the car, there is no more obligation to make payments. You obviously have maintenance and stuff like that, but the payments are done. Mileage restrictions or anything like that. And if you're like me with kids, having kids, the backseat will inevitably become disgusting. You don't have to worry about paying fees and stuff when you return the car because you have kids. So that's a plus in the ownership column. And when you lease, you're basically renting. So I understand what Dave is getting at. Dave tries to avoid debt obligations as a tax on your future. I don't agree with him enough to call this a trap because like I said before, I do think leasing gives people the same flexibility as renting an apartment does. Not everyone can afford a house. Leasing cars, not a trap, Dave. Next up, we got timeshares. Not a trap. I'm going to make an assumption though. I'm making the assumption that we're dealing with timeshares that are not shady business, okay? Like I said before, anyone can scam anybody on something. Let's talk about a perfectly legitimate timeshare. If you are planning to go away somewhere and you know you're going to repeatedly go back to that place, or you're going to use a network of hotels within a certain program, a timeshare can save you a lot of money. The same way repeatedly shopping at certain stores can get you discounts and bonuses and points and things like that. Timeshares don't appreciate in value. Yes, there are tons of scams involved with timeshares. They may be difficult to resell if you can resell them at all. And then there's probably fees associated with whatever timeshare you're looking at. But if you do buy a timeshare and you're going to use it, you can save tons of money. You can save thousands of dollars if you utilize it to the fullest. So timeshares, not a trap, presuming you know what you're doing when you get into it. Okay, this is a big one. Credit cards. Why is it a big one? Because I actually love credit cards, but I'm going to agree with Dave. For the majority of people in this country, credit cards are a trap. Let me tell you why, and I will also give you my personal perspective. I call it a trap because in 2022, Americans have a mountain of credit card debt. Almost $1 trillion of credit card debt. It's an unbelievable amount of money. Credit cards are incredibly easy to obtain. They are super easy to spend on. And I do believe that they perpetuate bad spending habits. Credit card companies also leverage benefits like points to bring people in. Now, if I say credit cards are bad for most people, I'm gonna get a ton of response of people saying, but points. I agree with you that points are great, but it should not be at the detriment of paying back your debt. So if you cannot pay your bills every month on time in full, credit cards are going to be a trap for you. Those points will be worthless compared to the amount of interest that you'll be paying on all those things that you bought. Now, let me give you the perspective that I have. Somebody who is very responsible and conscious of spending, somebody who also pays back credit cards in full every month, absolutely no questions asked. My perspective is this: if I'm going to spend, I might as well get a benefit for it. I have traveled from New York all the way to New Zealand and back, business class, for free with points. I just went on a vacation with my family. We needed a rental car for 3 weeks, completely free because of points. There is tremendous value in points as long as you are paying your bill in full and you are spending responsibly. So for that scenario, my personal scenario, it is not a trap. But I do believe that for the majority of people out there, credit cards are a trap. I think Dave left all the controversial ones to the end. Next up, student loans. Calling this a trap is an absolute load of crap. That was an awesome rhyme. Student loans enabled me to go from not being able to go to graduate school to being able to afford to go and become a lawyer. Being a lawyer enabled me to get a high-paying salary. It helped me pay back the vast majority of my loans. I still have some of it outstanding, but it's not a burden for me anymore because I was able to pay a lot of it back. But there are people out there who are looking to better their lives. I do think there's an element of student loans where you need to look at what you are actually going to do and see if there's enough of a return on that investment to actually pay back those loans. Now, there are exceptions to this. I think about the teachers who want to have a life providing education to others who are not going to be in the best position to pay back their loans. And it's great that there are government programs. I think that there needs to be a ton of reform when it comes to student loans and how we fund education in this country for people who give back to our communities and our country. Same thing with doctors. By the way, there is a massive shortage of teachers and doctors in this country. Everyone says doctors make a ton of money, but guess what? Do you know how long it takes to actually become a doctor? The amount of debt that doctors take on just to become doctors? I think becoming a doctor is one of the most selfless professions out there. I applaud doctors and nurses and anybody in the healthcare profession. They should absolutely not have to take on such debt to do what they do. Unfortunately, they do. And I, for one, am glad that student loans are there so that we have people that can actually go to school to become doctors, to become teachers, and all of those vital professions that we need that require higher educations. So Dave, calling this a trap is an absolute load of crap. The last one that Dave mentions is same as cash financing. What I think he means here is buy now, pay later options. And I'm going to agree with Dave on this one. And we're going to call it a trap. Buy now, pay later is completely on the rise now. And I understand why. If there are certain things that you need, you can't pay all of it today. You can space it out, and that's fine. The problem with this is that it can perpetuate overspending. I think it's making things too easy, the same way credit cards can make things too easy to buy. And for that, I'm going to agree with Dave and say this is a trap as well. So, do you agree with me? Do you agree with Dave? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I post a new video every single week. You will get my take on personal finance topics. I will teach you everything I know. Not a guru, not an expert, just someone who has been through this, enthusiastic about personal finance, and educating everyone I possibly can so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did, and that you realize that the smart decisions you make today can help you be rich tomorrow. I'm Ian Group. I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching. See ya.